Morning, folks. Welcome back to The View for a slightly different news update for deadline day. No point in really recording anything that could change in the next 5, 10, 15 minutes. So decided to do a live stream this morning, have a little bit of a chat with you. Won't be on for too long. I won't take up too much of your time, usual stuff. But we'll give you what's going on the ground right now. It is really, really quiet. We'll have a little chat about the approach to this window so far, the likely outcomes that will happen after it, depending on what way today goes. And what's been said on the ground so far. Also trying to keep an eye on the live updates as well. So if anything does happen while we're speaking, we can have a talk about it. Back tonight again. At the moment, I'm planning on doing the final hour of the transfer window. The stream is already scheduled on the channel. You can see that if you want to put a notification on it. But I might go an hour earlier, just depending on how the evening goes. And also, I want to talk about the game midweek as well. So we might try and juggle a couple of things around for the last hour or two. BBC stepping in this year and stealing my breakfast. So we might have to do something just to try and extend it a little bit because of that. But lots of people in the chat this morning. I won't do a huge amount of chat today because I just kind of want to get through the news and I don't want to keep you here too long. But good morning, Gav. How are you? Ollie, how are you? Terry's in the house. Good morning to everybody. It's really, really nice to see you all this morning. It could be a very busy day. It could be a very, very quiet day. And we have to be prepared for both, I think. Good morning. I'm good. Good weekend so far. I hope you've all had a really good weekend so far. Morning, Neil. Neil, how are you? Yeah, the 7-up. Yeah. What a result. What a result at the weekend. Might have changed our stance on things a little bit, but I don't think it should have. But yeah. Who put the ball in the Cardiff net? Half of our side. Half of our team did. Good morning. Good morning from China. Good morning. From County Kerry, frustrating to see. We're not busy looking at the last pieces to get to the Premier League. And that's the point, Finton. I think you've nailed the point there. I'm not overly frustrated because it is a couple of minor cover positions that I think that we need to close off for this to be a good window and just be ready to go for the final run-in. And we'll talk about that because that to me is where I think there's an open goal for Leeds. You've never been closer to getting to the Premier League. You need cover in probably 3 positions. 2 will probably do you. Get those 2 in now. And don't worry about it then. Get ready for the rest of the season. If you don't do it, you're taking a gamble, leaving yourself wide open. And if it does fall apart then the back end of the season, it's kind of only one direction to point the finger. And that's the unnecessary nature of this. But we'll see how it goes. Good morning, Carl. Big up yourself as well. Jason, how are you doing? Good morning, Luke. Yeah, how are you, man? Hopefully Archer today. I don't know anymore. I'm back into Fortnite to bring in the business and place 10% tariff on our rivals. Yes, that's Trump going after Europe and the UK this morning with his tariffs. Anyway, we're not going to talk politics on this channel, but we'll move on. We'll get into what's going on right now. We'll start off with Cameron Archer and what's been said about Cameron Archer's situation. There's a live blog going on Leeds Live this morning. Isaac Johnson's been doing some updates. We've had some updates from Joe Donoghue, some from Graham Smith as well. So everyone's busy. Everyone's ready to go, except for Leeds. So yeah, to be honest, I'm not expecting any incomings. I would position yourself in that place and manage your own expectations, and then we'll see what happens. Happy St. Bridget's there, yeah. A new bank holiday for Ireland today, which is why I won't be here for most of today. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Baps, been a long time, mate. Hope you're well. I haven't missed anything. You've missed nothing. No. Not sure if Archer is any better than what we have. There's a valid point in that. I don't think we necessarily need better in that position. We need cover in that position of an equal level should anything happen to Joe Pirro or Mateo Joseph. So that's where I think I'm 10 as well. Talking about William and Aronson as well, but we'll get to that. Do you reckon we'll get anyone in? I've been saying the whole time I think we'll get 1, maybe 2. I'm not so sure. But we'll talk about it now in a sec. We'll get through these first sets of comments and then we'll have a quick chat about it. Firpo needs him there too. We don't need a centre forward. Yeah, put Firpo on the 10. Put Firpo on the 10. Good assist for the third one. Question, Jared, do you think Cameron Archer would be happy to start on the bench? I think any player who rates themselves knows that they have to come in and do the work to get into the team. I think he'd be happy to sit on the bench for a week or two. Get Firpo on a new deal. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. That feel like a signing. You might get a couple of them. Back in the day, that was what Leeds used to do in the League One days when we did no business in January and it was desperate and depressing. Deadline day, Leeds would announce 3 contract extensions. You'd be like, just sign the players, but we were broke back then. But anyway, Cameron Archer. This morning, there's some news yesterday. Southampton have already brought in an attacker, but he's a young, underage youth attacker, and he's likely to go straight into their under 21 side and not be part of their first team. So that may not impact Leeds business just yet. Isaac Johnson in Leeds Live just reporting this morning, and he said that Leeds are not expecting Cameron Archer to come in before the deadline closes, with Southampton continuing to knock back Leeds' approach so far. Club sources say that they are not optimistic about a deal for Archer being done today. There could be a little bit of expectation management in this one. This might not be a straightforward deal still to get done. There might still be a lot of work to get done on it. They might just be managing the expectations by giving the local media and the local press that information. That obviously can change over the course of the day as has already been started. The dominoes start to fall, but there is links that Southampton could be looking at other players as well, which might then help free up Cameron Archer to come to Leeds. And it's an interesting position. We've already talked about it there briefly in the chat, but what Leeds are essentially looking for is somebody to fill Pat Bamford's role. Our goals aren't necessarily coming from our strikers this season, although Joel Perot still has a phenomenal GNA this season, considering he's had a couple of barren spells throughout the season. So as long as the goals are going in, which they are right now, and after getting 7 against Burnley, against Cardiff, you can't overly complain, but it's just cover we're looking for. And I think Archer kind of fills that position. There's potential there. Leeds wanted him not the previous summer. I think they had a look at him again in the summer, just gone. So they clearly like the player. They see something in him. A lot of managers have. Aston Villa rated him very highly, but wasn't going to get the game time there, and the player wanted to play. He's had 2 seasons where he's been at Sheffield United and Southampton, who both struggled in the Premier League. So strikers feed off supply. We've seen that with Joe Peru this year as well. If you don't give them the ball, can't score the goals. So yeah, there's all that context that needs to probably be taken into the Cameron Archer situation. But whether Leeds can actually go and get this deal done remains to be seen. There was an interesting story put out this morning, Joe Dunn, who shared it, which came from Bristol City, who this morning put out a statement, basically issued a statement saying, we're not signing anyone today. So they basically told everyone, go to bed. We're done. And basically, the reasons for Bristol City's statement around not making any signings this month, at all this month, but definitely not making any today, they said that January is a month for fans to get excited about new incomings. However, as a club, it is not a good month to do business. Nearly every club says that across the board. They also go on to say that the core of the squad needs to develop in time to grow, and they can't do that to bring in more players. So this gives the players that they've got in that squad right now, this gives them an opportunity to keep developing and keep growing as a unit. And they say that it gives them a chance to progress as well. So Leeds have said similar stuff to that. We've heard every club pretty much say something similar to that. It's always expectation management. But Bristol City making a very clear point today of telling their fans, no one's coming in. Don't worry about it. And sometimes you'd like to see Leeds doing that, wouldn't you? You'd like to see Leeds just put a statement there going, look, we're done. Head to bed. But they haven't done that. They probably won't. There's a couple of other mixy-mashy stories floating around that aren't major ones, but the Mark Gui, I never get his name right, and I wrote down the phonetics of this yesterday, so I had it right. Mark Gui from Chelsea. The reports for Leeds Live say the reports of any interest from Leeds side on Mark Gui are false, and Leeds are not interested in that player just yet. Actually, yeah, thanks, Phil. If you could stick a like on this, that would be great. Gets it out to more people, helps it to grow. I really appreciate that. We're heading towards 60,000 subscribers, so any help to get there would be greatly, greatly appreciated. I should also point out as well, because I get a couple of comments on this regularly. None of this is my stories. None of these are my work. This is me just sharing aggregated news. So, before someone goes into the chat and blames me for the stories being wrong, it's just what's out there, and I'm just sharing it with you. So that's the one for Mark Gay. He's a good player, good young player, Mark Gay. Sorry, not Gay, because that's Crystal Palace. Guiu, he's a good young attacker. Came into Chelsea with a lot of excitement around the player. Thought he was going to be a big signing for them as a young kind of up-and-coming player as well. Didn't work, didn't really click. So he could be available, but Leeds apparently, as of right now at least, Leeds are not interested in the player. There's a lot of possibly loose threads out there for players that Leeds are keeping an eye on, and then depending on what happens today, they can pull the one that they need to pull. Pierre, you've missed nothing, mate. You've missed nothing. We're here. Hello. How are you doing? We're live. I stuck it in the members chat for you because you asked me to, so I stuck it up on the member side so you'd see that. The other transfer that was linked yesterday, and I got a little excited about this one. It was Edward Spurtian, the Russian attacker number 10, who had a brief spell being coached by Daniel Farke, and that kind of made sense because anyone coming in at this point, we know it takes Daniel Farke some time to build up trust in players and give them game time. We've seen that with Ilya Gruev last season. We've seen it with Isaac Schmidt this year. Wasn't even on the bench the weekend, Schmidt. So it can take him some time. So bringing in a player that ticks that box straight away, knows Farke, the trust is already there, helps. Spurtian kind of ticked that box. He's a good 10. He's a very good 10. But now, what has come out this morning, and I've got a bit more detail on Spurtian because I went digging in Russia. A Russian outlet called Match TV, they claim that they've spoken directly with Leeds United over the course of the weekend about this deal, and Leeds have confirmed to them, and the language in this is really interesting as well. They've confirmed that Leeds United are not currently interested, are pursuing Spurs. Not interested. They said they're not currently pursuing Spurs. The currently is an interesting one. It does, again, like Nico Elvedi, kind of feels like a potentially Premier League move. But yeah, having a look at him now already. But yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But the Leeds Live reports are saying that the reports of this are false at the moment of any interest in the player. Russian media are saying that Leeds are currently not pursuing the player, but that doesn't mean there's not necessarily an interest in it. Can we trade Harrison for Spurs? We can, yeah. Yeah, we trade him for anybody right now. There was talk of that. We'll get to Jack Harrison in a minute. Good morning, Mixie. How are you doing? Hope you're well. We'll move on to the potential. There's some perhaps lost some translations on this player. Yeah, there's a couple of mixed reports this morning on the Willie Gnonto one. It's floating around, and we just need to clarify. This is why I say sometimes I say take it with a pinch of salt. Not every outlet that shares news is accurate all the time. They're just working off the information that's out there. So it's I suppose interesting. Just I'll give you the news. You can make of what you will. I don't share anything from sources that are always wrong. Like Football Insider, I just never cover them because they're never right. So some of them, I'll tell you, they're probably not as good as others. But the Willie Gnonto one's interesting because Leeds Live put out a statement that's now an article that's now been deleted, but it went out this morning and it basically claims there was still interest in Saudi Arabia and Willie Gnonto. The issue with that is Saudi Arabia's transfer window closed on the 30th of January. They're done. They can't sign anybody at this point. So it was a strange thing to put out there. There was potential interest from Fulham as well, but that hasn't turned into any kind of an offer as well. But it's just a very strange thing to wake up this morning going, Saudi Arabian sources say there's still interest in Willie Gnonto when the Saudi Arabian transfer window is closed and has closed 3 days ago. So yeah, interesting. We'll see what happens with Willie. I don't think Willie goes anywhere. I wouldn't be selling Willie. Whatever about him, I'm going through a bad run of form. He's got a lovely goal at the weekend. Needs to pass the ball a bit more, but still potential there. Wouldn't get rid of him just yet. Jack Harrison's the other one that popped up as an exit as well. Fulham had some interest over the course of the weekend and maybe getting him from Everton, Leeds, taking him back and then moving him out. The issue with that and the issue that has been with the Harrison situation is always the same and hasn't changed. It's for Jack Harrison's loan at Everton to be cancelled. Everton, Leeds, and Jack Harrison all have to agree to the termination because there's no termination clause in the contract. So if it's a case, he hasn't barely played for Everton under Moyes. The 4 games Moyes has been in charge. He started the first one. He hasn't played the next 2 after that. And he came on for 2 minutes at the weekend. So Harrison doesn't look like he's going to go anywhere in the summer. So Leeds could potentially take him away from Everton and give him to another club so he could get his form up, increase his value and try and sell him in the summer. He's not coming back to Leeds, but although he said that with everybody last year, so you never know. But basically, the story right now is Fulham showed an interest in Jack Harrison from Leeds, but that they haven't followed that up with a formal offer right now. And this is kind of similar to what Baron Cross was saying about Junior Firpo a couple of weeks ago, whereas they'll put a couple of feelers out there, they'll inquire about the availability, they'll see what work needs to be done to get the deal done. Should they have to be in a position where they have to sell a player or lose a player, then they can bring that one in pretty quickly. So it could just be a case of that. Now, this is when I saw it this morning. Samuel Jess saying, Jer, fancy James Ward-Prowse on loan. James Ward-Prowse has just been recalled to West Ham, so I think that would be a smart signing. It'd be a nice little one to get in. James Ward-Prowse. Set piece as well. We have nobody who can score a free kick. Or Joe Rottwell's decent on the corners, but they're not perfect. So maybe. Dave saying, what's the story on deadline day? Not a lot just yet. And I'm keeping an eye on the live updates on this as well. But currently, there's just not an awful lot. There was talk of the Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain coming to Leeds, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said no to that, so he's not coming to Leeds. There's a couple of people saying that there's potentially movement on Cameron Archer, but it doesn't look likely right now. So the other exit from Leeds, and this is the only one that looks like it's confirmed and will happen today, and that's Jeremiah Mullen. He is expected to finish up with Leeds United today and finalise his move to Dunfermline in the Scottish Championship. He's been up there doing the deal over the weekend. Obviously, Chris Moore is also up. I think he's with Falkirk. Chris Moore, he's up on trial up in Scotland as well. So Chris Moore could be leaving today as well, depending on how his trial goes. Even if today passes and Moore is not gone, what could happen very simply is Leeds could just terminate the contract of the player after January to allow him to move there on a free transfer. So Leeds are setting up a couple of their younger players to have clubs at the end of the season. Luca Thomas expected to leave at the end of the season. Keane Coleman expected to leave at the end of the season. Jeremiah Mullen expected to leave. Sonny Perkins is gone. And Chris Moore also expected to leave at the end of the season, which is a shame because Mullen more thought they were getting pretty close to the first team, but unfortunately not. So yeah, Gavin saying Potter wants him in his team. Okay, fair enough. Okay, well, it means he's a Premier League level player for me. So I laughed at the comment that Southampton winning a match. Yeah, they won against Ipswich. I know, yeah. Well, they won a game. But yeah, that's what's there at the moment. Graham Smith is saying in the YP is saying this morning that there are no imminent signings expected around Ellen Road, but Leeds are saying the same line. They will remain awake and alert to any possible movement in the window today. So again, we'll have to wait and see. The Iheanacho link to Leeds over the last couple of weeks, it looks like Iheanacho is off to Sheffield United this morning. That looks like it's been sorted, done and dusted. So the big questions are let's assume a couple of bits and pieces. It's always great to wildly speculate and assume on things, but if we assume a couple of things, and this is where I think the calm and the context is probably needed. Yeah, Marshmallow is saying it's unlikely. It's looking more and more unlikely. We could have something come out of nowhere. You never know, but we'll see. Here's the what if scenarios. And this is where I'm sitting on the fence. And it is very much a what if. As has been said by other people in the game that know better than I do, or anybody else who does this game knows. If you're top of the table and you have the best squad in the league, it's kind of hard to get better than what you've got, which is not really what Leeds are trying to do. Leeds are ideally looking to have another option up front, an option, not necessarily a starter, but an option. Possibly cover for Brendan Aronson in the 10 or a different profile, and potentially cover at centre-back at the right-hand side. So they're not vital if certain scenarios happen, but if other things happen, they might be. And this is where we'll talk about it. So if you're the best team in the league, you're the best of the best, you've got the best squad, hard to improve on that, hard to bring in players that make you better when you're already top of the pile. But your rivals have all got stronger. Sheffield United brought in 5, maybe 6 players now at this stage. Burnley bringing in Marcus Edwards, hell of a signing. Doesn't necessarily impact us, I don't think, because we're done playing them. It might actually help us in one sense. But yeah, that's the danger, that they've all gotten better, you've stayed the same, and that maybe, depending on how the second half of the season goes, they can progress on you. And it's very tight up there. So that's the what ifs. If we don't get injuries at all between now and the end of the season, which again, going off March last year when the international break happened, is unlikely. But if you go with that, Leeds probably don't need anybody if there's no injuries. But it's a huge if. And if you look at the opposite side of it, the flip side of this coin is, if Leeds do end up with some injuries, this was a massive gamble to do nothing in January. Massive gamble, because this is the best opportunity we've had to get promoted since we've come down. We're top of the table. We've more games played than we have ahead of us. We were better in the second half of the season last year than we were in the first half of the season. Daniel Farke's sides are historically better in the second half of the season than they are in the first half of the season. So all of that is there. Don't miss the open goal. That is, get the cover you need in, and let's go. No one, I don't think anybody is looking for a world-class signing to come into the championship at this point. This team is good enough to get promoted. But don't leave yourself in a position where you are flogging Brendan Aronson for 90 minutes a game. And Brendan can be streaky as well. Good and bad. So you need another player in there. And it's not okay to put square pegs in round holes and say we'll be okay. It's right there. So same with the number 9 position. Having that other profile for those teams that when we play against a low block, we have something more instinctive or someone a bit more aggressive in there. Different type of player. And that covers you. And then you're banking on Joe Rodon, Joe Rodon, who currently I think is on like 70 or 70 games in a row for Leeds since he's come to the club last season. And you're assuming he's not going to get injured for the rest of the season. Then you've already shown against Harrogate you're not going to play James De Boyle there. So that means a left footer has to go to the right-hand side, which is not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. For most centre-backs, it's not a big deal. But it's an unnecessary gamble to take because you might have other issues elsewhere. So for me, it's really, really simple. You've got 3 positions that you need covering. Get the cover and just move on and get ready for the rest of the season. Why we would take that gamble. So that's where it is for me. I think there is an open goal here to just get 1 or 2. And I think if we do 2, 1's probably not enough for me. I'd like the 9 and 10 sorted. You know, if you get the centre back, fine. But I think you can manage the centre backs. But just, you know, don't leave it up to chance. Don't look back at this moment at the end of the season and go, if only we had it. Oh, well, Brendan got injured in March, or when he went off to the States to play with America, he came back injured. When, you know, Joe Pirro got injured in training, or Joe Rodon picks up an injury on international duty with Wales. And then they're like, well, we should have done something. If we'd done that then we'd be okay. So I don't want to look back at the end of the season and say, well, what if we'd done this? This is the moment. And it's an obvious one for me. We said at the start of the season, no excuses this year. Leeds knew what they needed to do, I still think we're in a very positive place. I still think we're top of the pile. I still think this squad is good enough. We saw at the weekend when they let off the leash what they're capable of doing. But I said here, a few additions and a fully fit squad, we could have a decent cup run too. Yeah, we could have a really good back end of the season with a little bit of cover there. But the issue is going to be always the same. And it's not always about us. I keep saying that about matches as well. It's not always about us. We can want the best players. We can want all these players. But if they don't want to come and sit on the bench, then they don't come. If they don't want to come and fight for their place, then they don't come. If the selling team decide, actually, do you know what? No, you can't have them. Or as it looks like any player we've been linked with, Sheffield United go and have a nip at someone trying to take your players away. So, yeah, Alex Crook at the moment is saying still that Leeds have and are pushing hard, have interest and are pushing hard to sign Cameron Archer for Southampton. So it's still there, still rumbling. I'm not saying nothing's going to get done today. As I say, I still think we'll get one. Burnley and Sunderland have also looked at Cameron Archer, according to Mike McGrath. Mike McGrath tends to be fairly accurate, but he says Leeds remain in the boxy to sign him. So it's going to flip-flop over the course of the day. I'm going to be out for a large portion of today. I'll be back tonight. So the last, I'm going to say 2 hours of the window, you can stick the notifications on the video link that's down below, or not down below, in the live chat, the live section of YouTube, and that'll let you know when we're on live later on. So we'll be live for the last 2 hours. Won't be just myself. Alex from American Leeds podcast is coming in as he always does for the final day hour of the window, as is Mike, our Canadian contributor who does some stuff with NBC in US as well. So he's coming in as well to help us for the last hour of the transfer window. But I'm probably going to extend that to 2 hours, do a little hour of my own beforehand, cover off the midweek game, and then we'll get to the final hour of the window. And hopefully by that stage, we've got something to talk about. And if we don't have something to talk about, we'll have to digest what everybody else has done in the window. So we've plenty to talk about. We'll see how we get on. But right now, I think we're okay. But I would like to see us just go and fill the 2 gaps and help us move on, you know? And Richard's saying the same thing. I agree with you. 100%. 1 or 2 are necessary. Not vital, but will help you just, you know, don't take a gamble when there isn't a need to take a gamble, you know? Lean Team saying great stuff, Jer. All seems a bit late to expect a quality edition. I think that's when the quality editions actually are free. If you look at, as has been said, Bogle, James, Fripp or Solomon. Yeah, exactly. Who do you drop for who? But if you look at the end of the window last year, Outanaka came in and Manor Solomon came in at the end of the window. So sometimes you have to wait for the better players because their clubs are trying to offload players to get the ones that they want in. So you have got to be a bit patient. And we'll see if that works. They called it a strategy in the summer. And as has been said before, it's a bold strategy if it pays off. But I don't know if it necessarily will this time around. It's a dodgy window. No one likes doing business in it. It's an expensive window. And it kind of looks like you're panicking if you're bringing in loads of players. If you look what Sheffield United are doing. But it's hard to argue that Sheffield United have not brought in better players. Dave Rogers saying always improve your squad if possible. That's the if possible being the big one there. Sanaka got it, brother. Hope he's got 3 or 4. Yeah. Anyway, folks, look, listen, thanks for spending some time with me this morning. I really appreciate it. I'll be back tonight. Keep an eye on the channel for updates beyond X and Blue Sky over the course of the day as well. I'm off to get some bits and pieces done, and I will see you later on tonight. Massive thanks for joining me. Really appreciate it. Slap a like on the way out so this gets around to some people, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Peace out. Bye.